What if I told you that one anonymous message, one single tip, was enough to send the internet into absolute chaos? Not a court document, not an indictment, not confirmed evidence, just a tip, and yet the names inside it were explosive. The message allegedly referenced connections between Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, Eminem, Marilyn Manson, and Sean Combs. And the moment those names appeared together, people stopped scrolling. Because here's the reality. When you combine celebrity power, unresolved scandals, sealed files, and anonymous accusations, the public doesn't just get curious. They get suspicious. Now let's slow this down. The message in question was described as a civilian tip submitted to authorities. It allegedly referenced events from the early 2000s at a country club in Ohio. The person writing it claimed hazy memories, fear, confusion, trauma. They admitted there was no physical evidence. They admitted the memories felt dreamlike. And that right there is where things get complicated. Because tips are not proof. Anyone can submit one. Anyone can type a name. Anyone can attach a memory. But when certain names appear, especially after years of headlines surrounding Epstein's trafficking network, the emotional temperature rises immediately. Let's be honest. Ever since Epstein's 2019 death, public trust has been fractured. Millions of people believe powerful individuals escaped accountability. Files were sealed. Associates were questioned. Maxwell was convicted. But many still feel like the full truth never surfaced. So when another tip emerges, even without verification, people are already primed to believe something bigger is hiding. That's psychology. That's trauma. That's distrust. The internet doesn't ask, is this confirmed? It asks, what if it's true? And when celebrities are mentioned, especially ones with controversial histories, the speculation spreads faster than facts ever could. Now let's talk about why this hits so hard. Celebrity culture in America isn't just about music or movies anymore. It's about power, influence, access, private parties, exclusive circles, billion-dollar empires built behind velvet ropes. People don't just wonder what celebrities do on stage. They wonder what happens behind closed doors. So when a tip connects multiple famous figures to a location, a time period, or an alleged environment involving exploitation, the reaction isn't mild. It's explosive. But here's what responsible conversation requires. We separate allegation from evidence. We separate suspicion from conviction. We separate emotion from proof. Because naming someone in a tip does not equal guilt. And that's important. At the same time, we can't ignore why the public reacts the way it does. Epstein's confirmed crimes created a permanent shadow over elite networks. He socialized with politicians, royalty, CEOs, academics, celebrities. That much is documented. That much is real. So now, anytime someone asks, why were these people in the same circles? It resonates, not because it proves wrongdoing, but because trust is already damaged. And then there's the Diddy factor. Sean Diddy Combs has faced federal investigations and raids in recent months, which only fuels speculation culture. When law enforcement executes searches on a celebrity's properties, the internet fills in blanks immediately, often without verified conclusions. That's the environment we're in. A climate where allegations go viral instantly, screenshots circulate faster than court filings, emotional testimony spreads before confirmation, and silence gets interpreted as guilt. But here's the dangerous part. When we treat unverified tips as confirmed truth, we risk becoming part of the chaos. The person who submitted the message described confusion, trauma, and fragmented memory. That deserves empathy. Always. But empathy does not equal automatic validation of every detail involving named individuals. That's where nuance matters. That's where responsibility matters. And that's where creators have to decide, are we chasing shock value? Or are we examining a larger cultural issue? Because the bigger issue here isn't just one tip. It's the public's belief that powerful networks protect themselves. It's the lingering anger over Epstein's death. It's the unanswered questions. It's the suspicion that blackmail, leverage, and influence are tools used at the highest levels of power. That narrative has existed for decades. And when celebrities, especially polarizing ones, get mentioned, it feeds directly into that narrative. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. Being in proximity to someone who committed crimes does not automatically make someone complicit. Hollywood, music, and political circles overlap constantly. Events, galas, fundraisers, charity functions, powerful people share space. The question the public keeps asking isn't just, who was there? It's who knew what? And that's a very different standard. Right now, this remains what it is, an unverified tip. No charges connected to the names mentioned in this specific claim. No confirmed evidence tied to those allegations. But the emotional impact? Massive. Because once the internet hears something like this, it doesn't forget. Even if it's later disproven. Even if it never materializes into a case. The association alone lingers. And that's why conversations like this need balance. We can talk about power structures, elite social circles, the psychology of blackmail theories, why the public feels deceived, how trauma and memory work, why high-profile scandals create ripple effects without declaring guilt where none has been legally established. In Part 2, we're going to dive deeper into why the Epstein network permanently altered public perception of celebrity culture, and why every new rumor now feels believable to millions of Americans. Because this story isn't just about names, it's about trust. And once trust is broken at the highest level, every shadow looks darker. Ever since the downfall of Jeffrey Epstein, something shifted in the American psyche. Not just shock, not just outrage, but a deep, almost permanent suspicion that the most powerful people in the room know each other, protect each other, and operate on a completely different level than the rest of us. That's what people mean when they say umbrella network. It's not a confirmed organization. It's not a proven secret society. It's a theory, one born from patterns, proximity, and unanswered questions. And whether you believe that theory or not, you cannot deny one thing. Epstein's confirmed crimes shattered public trust. Before 2019, most Americans didn't spend their days wondering what billionaires and celebrities were doing behind closed doors. But after Epstein's arrest, his connections were laid bare. Politicians, academics, royalty CEOs, cultural icons. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was photographed smiling next to powerful people. And when Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted for her role in trafficking minors, it confirmed something chilling. The network wasn't imaginary. It was real, at least in the sense that exploitation had been organized and enabled. But here's where things get complicated. A confirmed criminal network does not mean every person who ever attended an event, party, or fundraiser connected to Epstein was involved in crimes. Proximity is not proof. A photo is not a conviction. And yet, public perception doesn't work like a courtroom. It works on association. Once Americans saw the guest lists, once flight logs became headline material, once social calendars were scrutinized, something changed. The question shifted from did he do it to who else knew? And that question never went away. So now, years later, when a new tip or allegation surfaces mentioning high-profile figures, even without evidence, it doesn't land in a neutral space. It lands in a country already primed to distrust elite circles. That's the power network theory. It's the belief that the rich operate differently. The famous are protected. Secrets are currency. A leverage is power. And when you look at the history of Hollywood scandals, music industry lawsuits, NDAs, hush settlements, and sealed court documents, you can understand why people feel that way. Let's zoom out. The entertainment industry is built on access. Private events, invitation-only gatherings, after parties that don't make the news. If you're a rising star, an invite to an elite circle can feel like validation. Doors open, collaborations happen, careers explode overnight. But in every industry built on power, there's always a darker question. Who controls the room? That's where speculation thrives. In recent months, the federal raids involving Sean Combs reignited public curiosity about what powerful figures may have documented, stored, or leveraged. It's important to state clearly, investigations and allegations are not convictions. Legal processes take time. Facts emerge slowly. But the visual of federal agents entering a celebrity mansion? That sticks. And once that image exists, the internet fills in blanks. People begin connecting dots, sometimes responsibly, sometimes recklessly. Then there's the cultural factor. Hip-hop, rock, Hollywood, these spaces are often mythologized. Stories of excess, wild parties, you had to be there nights. Over time, that mythology turns into something bigger. An assumption that behind every velvet rope is something we're not supposed to see. So when an anonymous tip references celebrities in a setting allegedly linked to Epstein-era activities, it triggers something deeper than gossip. It triggers fear. Fear that influence protects the powerful. Fear that accountability is selective. Fear that regular people would never survive the scrutiny that elites avoid. Now here's the part that needs clarity. The power network theory is emotionally powerful because it feels plausible, but plausibility is not proof. Yes, powerful people know each other. Yes, industries overlap. Yes, influence exists. But that does not automatically equal coordinated criminal behavior. Still, Americans are asking tougher questions now than they did 15 years ago. Questions like, why were certain people invited? Why did some associations continue after red flags appeared? Why do investigations take so long? Why do sealed documents exist in cases involving public harm? These are fair questions. They don't accuse. They don't convict. They demand transparency. And transparency is where trust begins to rebuild. But until that transparency feels complete, speculation fills the gap. That's human nature. When information feels incomplete, we create narratives to make sense of it. Sometimes those narratives are grounded. Sometimes they spiral. And social media accelerates both. A single post can trend in minutes. A screenshot can go viral before context catches up. Emotional testimony spreads faster than legal disclaimers. In this environment, being named, even in an unverified tip, carries weight. It doesn't mean guilt, but it changes perception. And perception, in the age of digital media, can shape reputation almost as powerfully as evidence. That's why discussions like this need balance. We can acknowledge that Epstein's crimes were real. Elite circles overlap. Power can shield wrongdoing. Victims deserve to be heard. Without jumping from mentioned to proven, the truth is, America is in a post-Epstein era. An era where blind trust in celebrity culture is gone. Where fans ask harder questions. Where proximity to scandal triggers scrutiny. And where the public is no longer satisfied with surface-level explanations. But here's the deeper psychological layer. Scandals involving exploitation create moral shock. Moral shock doesn't fade quickly. It imprints. So even years later, even when new allegations are unverified, the emotional memory of confirmed crimes lingers and colors how people interpret everything that follows. It's not just about this tip. It's about the environment the tip landed in. An environment of unresolved anger. An environment of suspicion. An environment where Americans feel like the elite play by different rules. And until the legal system provides clear, transparent conclusions in every high-profile case, that suspicion will continue to shape public reaction. Here's the uncomfortable reality of modern fame. You don't have to be charged. You don't have to be indicted. You don't even have to be accused directly. Sometimes, just being in the same room is enough to change how the world sees you forever. That's the power and the danger of proximity. Ever since the collapse of Jeffrey Epstein's empire, America has been rethinking one simple question. If you were around him, what did you know? It's a question loaded with emotion. Because Epstein wasn't just a criminal operating in the shadows. He was photographed at galas. He attended conferences. He mingled with billionaires and world leaders. His name appeared in social calendars long before it appeared in indictments. And when Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted, it confirmed that exploitation had been organized at a high level. That fact alone permanently altered public trust. But here's where it gets complicated. In elite spaces, Hollywood, politics, finance, the same names show up again and again. Red carpet events, charity fundraisers, industry parties, award ceremonies. You can find celebrities in the same frame dozens of times over decades without any wrongdoing attached. And yet, after Epstein, association feels different. Now, when people see a celebrity's name connected, even loosely, to a controversial figure, the reaction isn't neutral curiosity. It's suspicion. Let's break this down. There's a psychological phenomenon called guilt by association bias. It happens when our brains connect two pieces of information and treat the connection itself as evidence. If person A committed crimes, and person B was seen with person A, then person B must be involved. But real life doesn't work like that. In high-powered industries, people cross paths constantly. Invitations get accepted. Photos get taken. Introductions happen. Sometimes people meet once and never speak again. And sometimes, this part matters, people genuinely don't know what someone else is hiding. History is full of examples where criminals successfully presented polished public personas while living double lives. Epstein himself cultivated an image of philanthropy and intellectual engagement for years. So here's the key distinction. Proximity raises questions. It does not answer them. Now bring this into today's climate. When an unverified tip references names like Eminem, Marilyn Manson, or Sean Combs, the public reaction is amplified for different reasons. Each of these figures carries a very different public image. Eminem has built a career on controversy, shock lyrics, and confrontation. That persona alone makes people more likely to believe dramatic narratives. even if there's no verified evidence behind them. Marilyn Manson has faced multiple civil allegations in recent years, which shapes how the public interprets any additional claims, regardless of legal outcomes. Sean Combs has recently been under federal investigation, and images of law enforcement activity create powerful impressions in the public mind, even before court proceedings conclude. See how perception layers? It's not just about a name appearing somewhere. It's about the emotional history attached to that name. That's why proximity becomes explosive. Because in 2026 America, people are no longer separating. A party invitation, a photographed handshake, a single meeting, a business introduction from the worst-case scenario their imagination can construct. Social media intensifies this. A single screenshot spreads. A headline gets clipped. Context disappears. Suddenly nuance is gone. And once nuance is gone, narratives fill the space. Here's the truth most people don't want to sit with. Sometimes proximity is meaningless. Sometimes it's coincidence. Sometimes it's networking. And sometimes, yes, proximity can reveal deeper issues, but that requires evidence, not speculation. The problem is, in the post-Epstein era, Americans feel like evidence doesn't always surface publicly. That belief, whether accurate or not, drives distrust. So instead of waiting for courts, people try to crowdsource truth online. That's dangerous territory, because public opinion can become a courtroom without rules. And in that courtroom, rumors are testimony, screenshots are exhibits, emotion is verdict. Now let's zoom in on why this matters so much. Reputation is currency in entertainment. Once doubt attaches to a name, it lingers. Even if no charges ever materialize, even if allegations are disproven, even if investigations close quietly, the association becomes part of the narrative. And here's something even deeper. Humans crave patterns. When multiple high-profile scandals emerge in one industry, whether it's music, film, politics, or sports, our brains start searching for systemic explanations. We ask, is this random? Or is this coordinated? And once people suspect coordination, the idea of a network feels emotionally satisfying. It explains chaos. It organizes fear. It gives shape to distrust. But again, emotional satisfaction is not the same as factual confirmation. The danger in moments like this is sliding from, "This deserves scrutiny," into, "This must be true." Those are very different positions. Scrutiny is healthy in a democracy. Assumption is not. And here's something that rarely gets discussed. False association can cause real harm. Imagine being named in an unverified tip. Imagine headlines spreading before investigators confirm anything. Imagine your family reading viral threads before you even understand what's happening. That doesn't mean victims shouldn't speak. It means public discourse must balance compassion with caution. Both matter. In high-profile scandals, two truths can exist at once. Survivors deserve to be heard. Accused individuals deserve due process. When either side is erased, justice collapses. America is still wrestling with how to hold both realities simultaneously. Because the Epstein scandal didn't just expose crimes. It exposed how deeply interconnected elite spaces are. And once that curtain was pulled back, it never fully closed again. So now every new allegation, verified or not, hits harder. Every name carries weight. Every association sparks debate. But here's the critical reminder. Being present somewhere does not equal participation in wrongdoing. Being photographed with someone does not equal conspiracy. And being mentioned in a tip does not equal guilt. That doesn't make questions illegitimate. It makes conclusions premature. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. This isn't just about one tip. It isn't just about a few celebrity names. It isn't even just about Jeffrey Epstein anymore. It's about trust. And trust, once broken at the highest level, doesn't come back easily. When Epstein was arrested in 2019, the public didn't just see a wealthy financier accused of horrific crimes. They saw a symbol of power operating in shadows. When he died in federal custody, before trial, millions of Americans felt something shift inside them. Not closure, not justice, just questions. Then came the conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell. That confirmed that exploitation had been organized, enabled, and protected for years. But even that verdict didn't quiet the storm. Because people weren't just asking, who helped? They were asking, who else knew? And that question, whether fair or not, has never stopped echoing. Now fast forward. Every time a celebrity investigation makes headlines, Every time federal agents execute a search warrant, every time a powerful figure faces allegations, the public reaction isn't isolated anymore. It's cumulative. When homes linked to Sean Combs were searched by federal authorities, it didn't exist in a vacuum. It landed in a country already skeptical of celebrity power. It landed in a culture that believes influence shields consequences. And whether that belief is always accurate or not, it feels real to millions of people. That's what we're really looking at here, a crisis of confidence. For decades, Americans were sold a dream about celebrity culture. Glamour, talent, hard work paying off. But the last 15 years have revealed something different. We've seen major music moguls fall from grace, film producers convicted of abuse, politicians exposed in corruption scandals, billionaires facing fraud charges, and each time it happens, the public reaction gets sharper. Because people start seeing a pattern, not necessarily a coordinated criminal enterprise, but a pattern of insulation, a pattern of access, a pattern where the rich move in circles the average person will never see. And when you don't see something, your imagination fills the gap. That's human nature. Now add social media into the equation. 20 years ago, rumors traveled slowly. Today, they move at the speed of screenshots. A single post can frame someone before investigators release a statement. A trending hashtag can define a narrative before a courtroom even opens. And once the narrative is out there, it rarely disappears. That's why unverified tips, anonymous claims, and celebrity associations hit differently in 2026 than they would have in 2006. Back then, people might have shrugged. Now people lean in. Because something fundamental changed after Epstein. The illusion of distance between power and exploitation collapsed. And when illusions collapse, paranoia can rise. But here's the critical line we have to hold. Distrust does not equal proof. Suspicion does not equal conviction. Emotion does not equal evidence. It's completely valid for Americans to demand transparency from powerful figures. It's valid to question why elites seem to know each other. It's valid to ask why investigations sometimes feel slow or incomplete. But it's also vital to remember that in a functioning legal system, guilt is established through verified evidence, not viral momentum. There's another layer to this too. Scandals involving exploitation create something called moral injury in the public consciousness. When people feel like institutions failed to protect the vulnerable, it doesn't just anger them, it wounds them. And wounded societies look for answers everywhere. Sometimes those answers are grounded in fact. Sometimes they're built on fear. Sometimes they're built on both. The danger is when fear replaces due process entirely. Because once that happens, reputations are destroyed before investigations conclude. And when that becomes normalized, trust erodes even further. It becomes a cycle. A scandal erupts. Trust collapses. New rumors surface. Suspicion spreads. Transparency feels incomplete. Trust collapses again. That's the environment we're living in right now. And here's something even more uncomfortable. Some people genuinely believe that powerful figures operate with leverage, that secrets are currency, that influence is traded quietly, that careers are shaped by hidden dynamics. There are historical examples of blackmail and corruption in politics and entertainment. That's documented reality. But expanding that into a sweeping assumption that every association equals participation? That's where speculation overtakes evidence. The Epstein case permanently changed how Americans interpret proximity. Before 2019, a photo with a controversial financier might have meant nothing. After 2019, it means something, even if that something is just doubt. And doubt is powerful. It doesn't need proof to survive. It only needs uncertainty. So where does that leave us? It leaves us in a space where conversations about power must be careful, balanced, and grounded. It leaves us in a space where we can say, victims deserve to be heard. Allegations deserve investigation. Powerful people deserve scrutiny. Accused individuals deserve due process. All of those statements can exist at the same time. The real test of a society isn't whether it exposes wrongdoing. It's whether it can pursue truth without abandoning fairness. Right now, America is wrestling with both. Because once the curtain was pulled back on elite misconduct, people stopped assuming innocence by default. But we can't swing so far in the opposite direction that suspicion becomes the standard of guilt. The story that started with Epstein is still unfolding, not in courtrooms alone, but in culture. It's unfolding in how we consume headlines, in how we interpret associations, in how quickly we believe or disbelieve. And maybe the biggest lesson isn't about one tip or one name. Maybe it's this: transparency builds trust, secrecy erodes it, and in the absence of clear answers, the public will always create its own. The question moving forward isn't whether people will keep asking about elite networks. They will. The real question is whether institutions, media, and creators can handle those questions responsibly, without turning suspicion into spectacle. Because once speculation becomes entertainment, everyone loses, and that's the part we have to get right.